It was June of 2019 when Jake and I packed up his car for a road trip through Arizona. Nothing big, just two guys trying to kill time over the summer. No plans other than to drive, see where the road took us, and maybe camp somewhere along the way. I remember the sun going down that first night, painting everything in orange and purple streaks. The road was wide open, no cars behind us, none ahead, just us and the stretch of asphalt cutting through the desert. The music was up loud, the kind that made the windows buzz, and Jake kept tapping the steering wheel in rhythm. I was half listening, half doom-scrolling on my phone, occasionally laughing when Jake would curse about missing a turnoff or when we joked about how creepy it'd be if we broke down out here. At first it felt light, easy, like freedom. Hours went by like that. The further we drove, the emptier it got. No gas stations, no houses. Not even the kind of lone diner you'd expect to see glowing off the highway. Just brush, sand, and a sky that kept getting darker. Eventually, we rolled into Navajo land. There were signs posted, but the road just carried on through, and neither of us thought much about it. The car's headlights lit up maybe 50 feet ahead, and everything else disappeared into blackness. Sometime close to midnight, Jake pulled over, said he had to piss. He cut the music, and the sudden silence was heavy, like it had weight. The headlights stayed on, shining across gravel and scrub. Jake hopped out, muttering something about not being able to hold it, and wandered a few feet from the car. I stretched my legs, stepping out too. The air felt different out here, warmer, but still enough to raise goosebumps on my arms. That's when I saw it. On the other side of the road, standing just inside the glow of the headlights, was a figure. At first, my brain told me it was just a man walking on the shoulder, someone heading somewhere late at night. But something was off. The figure was too tall, its arms hanging too long, the posture all wrong, like a puppet slouched forward on loose strings. Its eyes. God, its eyes caught the light. They didn't shine like animal eyes. They glowed, faint, but steady, staring back at me. I froze. My mouth went dry. I turned to yell at Jake, but when I spun back around, the road was empty. The figure was gone. Just an open stretch of desert again. I told Jake what I saw. He laughed, said I was screwing with him. I tried to laugh too, but the sound came out thin. He zipped up, got back behind the wheel, and I followed, forcing myself to believe it was nothing, just headlights hitting brush or an animal. Nothing more. The road stretched on. This time, the music stayed off. The only sounds were the hum of the engine and the occasional thump of tires over cracks in the road. My eyes kept flicking to the side windows, half expecting to see something keeping pace with us in the dark. Every shadow looked like it could move if I stared long enough. Then I heard it. A low, heavy growl. At first, I thought it was the engine straining, but it wasn't. It came from outside, deep and guttural, the kind of sound that vibrated in my chest. It rose and fell, sometimes faint, sometimes right beside my door. My stomach clenched. I rolled the window up tight. Jake noticed but said nothing, his jaw locked, his hands stiff on the wheel. The sound circled us, shifting sides, following the car like it was hunting us. Then, out of nowhere, a stone struck the back of the car. The impact cracked like a gunshot, echoing through the night. Jake swore and pressed the gas harder, but a second stone followed, hitting just as hard, making the trunk shudder. There was no way anyone could have thrown something from that far out, not in that empty desert. Then something slammed into the side of the car. The impact was loud, violent, like someone had kicked the metal with full force. Jake cursed, swerving. Before he could straighten out, another slam hit the opposite side, harder. The car jerked, tires squealing. We veered off the road, gravel spitting up, and then everything flipped. Metal screamed, glass shattered, my head snapped sideways, and the world rolled over and over before it all went black. When I woke up, the world was silent again. The car was wrecked, lying on its side. The windshield was spiderwebbed with cracks. I groaned, tasting blood in my mouth, and forced myself upright. The passenger door was jammed halfway open. I shoved it until it gave and crawled out onto the sand. The desert air was colder now, the kind of cold that sinks straight into your bones. Jake was gone. His seat was empty, his door wide open. I staggered around the wreck, calling his name. Nothing. Just the hum of the cooling engine and the endless desert night pressing in on me. The silence was unbearable. Every creak of the wreck made me flinch. I kept circling the car, kicking sand, yelling Jake's name until my throat was raw. My hands shook so bad I dropped down to my knees at one point, pressing my palms into the dirt just to feel something solid. I thought about climbing back into the wreck, but the idea of sitting still made me sick. The desert stretched around me in every direction, silver under the moonlight, too empty, too open. My heart hammered so loud I swore the sound would draw something to me. That's when I saw it again. Up on a ridge, silhouetted against the moonlight, stood the same figure. Long limbs hanging, those faint glowing eyes locked on me. It didn't move. It didn't have to. Just stood there, watching. Every story I'd ever have heard about this land came flooding back. Stories you aren't supposed to repeat. Skinwalkers, beings that could take forms, steal voices, things not meant to be spoken about. My stomach dropped. I ran. The desert swallowed me up, sand crunching under my shoes, each step heavier than the last. Behind me, I heard it. Footsteps, heavy, matching mine. No matter how fast I moved, they stayed with me. My lungs burned and my throat was raw, but I didn't stop. Then I heard his voice. Stop! Jake's voice, clear as day. I almost stumbled. It was perfect, down to the way he always said it when he was annoyed. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around to believe it was him, but I knew better. My gut knew. It wasn't Jake. The thing behind me was trying to trick me, trying to make me stop. I pushed harder, not daring to look back. At some point, faint lights appeared ahead. Tiny at first, then growing clearer. I stumbled into a small town, gasping for air, words spilling out in broken fragments to the first people I saw. They looked at me like I was crazy, but they called the sheriff when I said my friend was missing. We went back to the crash site in 2 trucks, flashlights cutting across the sand. The wreck was still there, metal twisted and broken, but no sign of Jake. The sheriff frowned at me the whole time, his lips pursed like he was humoring a child. He kept asking if I'd been drinking, if we'd swerved to avoid an animal. I kept repeating what I saw, but the more I said it, the less real it sounded. By morning, search parties spread out across the desert. Hours later, they found him unconscious near a river, nearly a kilometer from the crash. His body was covered in scratches, long and deep, like claws had raked across him. His clothes were filled with brittle bones, old and strange, shoved deep into his pockets. No one could explain it. He was admitted to the hospital in critical condition and kept in the ICU for 5 days. Tubes, monitors, machines, the works. His parents came down, pale and panicked, and I sat in the waiting room every night replaying the crash, replaying that figure on the ridge. The nurses whispered when they passed, shaking their heads at his wounds. Doctors said the injuries looked like an animal attack, but none of them could agree on what kind of animal. The sheriff came once to ask questions, but when I repeated my story, he only sighed and told me to get some rest. When Jake finally woke, he had no memory of it. The last thing he remembered was driving. Nothing more. I tried, gently at first, to ask him about the growling, about the stones hitting the car, about the things I saw. He shook his head, turned away, and closed his eyes. Every time I brought it up, he shut down completely. Trauma, the doctor said. His brain is protecting itself. Even after he was discharged, weeks later, I tried again. Over a beer, I asked if he remembered anything strange in the desert. The growling, the crash, the bones. He wouldn't answer. He just stared at the table until I changed the subject. I could tell by the way his jaw tightened that he knew exactly what I was asking. But he refused to say a word, refused to acknowledge it. Maybe trying to forget was easier for him. We never talked about it again. Not the glowing eyes, not the growling, not the voice that pretended to be him. But sometimes when I lie awake at night, I think about that ridge, about the figure watching me in the moonlight, waiting, and I wonder if it still is.